It's a final one for the week. Welcome to 25 minutes of getting updates from the world of business. And here's what we have prepared for you. In Ghana, the government is revoking 278 small-scale mining licenses over regulatory breaches. The government in Egypt has approved power purchase agreement for master-led 1.2 gigawatt solar storage project. Not a good one for Zimbabwe as cotton production falls to a new record low. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start as usual from the oil space where prices jumped more than 5% after the Trump administration imposed further sanctions on Russia's two largest crude companies, citing Moscow's lack of serious commitment to a peace process to end the war in Ukraine. And the Treasury Department said that the new sanctions will harm the Kremlin's ability to raise revenue to fund the war against Ukraine. So looking at the numbers for this afternoon, it's a drop 0.24% from the highs we saw earlier, $65.84 a barrel. WTI has also dropped 0.23% at $61.65 a barrel. A senior White House official says that the new sanctions are related to plans for a meeting between President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin in Budapest. That fell through, as we know at this time. Trade tensions, of course, have been caused by Trump's tariffs. Meanwhile, they've also raised worries in the oil market that economic growth will slow and hurt demand. In the metal space, gold prices dropped more than 1% today, Friday, and were poised to break a 9-week winning streak as investors booked profits and signs of easing trade tensions between the U.S. and China tempered safe haven demand ahead of a key U.S. inflation report as expected today. So we see the numbers for spot gold. It's down 1.5%. $4,063.46 a barrel, an ounce, beg your pardon. U.S. gold is also down 1.7%, $4,077.10 per ounce, and spot silver 1.6% in the red, $48.13. Platinum 1.1% in the red at $1,610.59 per ounce, and then palladium 3.8% in the red. That's that's the biggest fall that we have at this time, $1,401.18 for that. Bullion has gained 55% this year, so investors in gold have taken a lot of profit, driven by ongoing geopolitical turmoil and central bank purchases and expectations of U.S. interest rate cuts. Spot prices notched to a record high on Monday after climbing past the 4,000 per ounce mark for the first time this month. And in Ghana, the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovations has announced a productive meeting with Group Vivendi Africa, GVA, during which the Minister, Honorable Samuel George, expressed strong backing for GVA's upcoming commercial rollout of high-speed fiber to the home internet services. The initiative aims to deliver affordable, unlimited broadband connectivity to Ghanaian households, starting in Accra and Kumasi, with plans to extend across the country. Minister George, is praising GVA's proposed pricing model as a revolutionary move aligned with the government's objectives of expanding digital inclusion and lowering data costs nationwide. He's committed to engaging relevant authorities, including the Minister for Energy and Electricity Company of Ghana, to address infrastructure access challenges and facilitate a smooth deployment process. And still in Ghana, the government has taken a decisive action in the small-scale mining sector by revoking 278 licenses held by operators who breached regulatory conditions or allowed their mining permits to expire. The decision was announced by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources through its Media Relations Office, confirming the licenses in question are part of the country's effort to sanitize the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. This latest development signals the government's tougher approach to sector reform as part of a broader strategy to promote sustainable and environmentally responsible mining practices. In Zimbabwe, the cotton production has collapsed into a fraction of yesteryear output, falling below 30,000 metric tons for the 2024-2025 season and forcing the country's textile industry to rely heavily on imports. According to the country's latest economic bulletin, the cotton marketing season concluded in July 2024 with cumulative deliveries of just 13.5 million kilograms, representing an 83.6% year-on-year decline from the 82.5 million kg delivered in the same period in 2023. The government has set a bold target of restoring production to 189,000 tons of seed cotton for the 2025-2026 season to be planted across roughly 270,000 hectares. This crash in output is attributed largely to an El Nino-induced drought that severely cut both hectareage and yields. And Egypt's cabinet has approved power purchase agreement for 2 solar projects totaling 1.2 gigawatts and 720 megawatts of battery storage to be developed by a consortium led by Abu Dhabi-based Masdar. The PPAs were signed last November between the Egyptian Electricity Transmission Company and the consortium, which also includes partners Infinity Power and Hassan Halam Utilities. The projects comprise a 900 megawatt solar plant in Wahat and 300 mega plants in Benban, each with co-located battery storage systems. Let's see what market numbers look like, beginning from Nigeria, where we see a sustained positive sentiment at intraday. The NGX has gained 0.52% and hit 155, hitting new highs every day. Seems to be the story. 155,296.50. And let's find out who's driving this today. We know that Dangote Cement, for like 2 trading sessions this week, has been a major driver. Abiodun Adedotun, equities trader with First Securities Broker, joins us now to give us update on this. Hi, Abiodun. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. It's good to be here again.
Great. So we see that positive sentiment is back in the markets. It seems investors are trying to outdo each other, just to hit new highs. Who are the drivers for today?
Of course, as you mentioned, Dangote Cement has been an high flyer, right? It's not really participated so much in the rally we saw earlier in the year. So, it's just arriving late to the party. And we've seen a lot of movements also in its fierce competitor, Lafarge. We've seen some movements in Boa Cement. Overall, this week we've seen a bit, from some interesting names, Boa Food and whatnot, though the banks have not moved in this direction. But of course, we expect that maybe they might come next week.
Yeah, so you said Dangote Cement is a latecomer, but do you see them driving this for a while, or can this be sustained? We know some investors are waiting on the sidelines, to hit a certain level and take some profit. We're talking about sustainability of this bullish run.
It's hard to say from here. Dangote is actually a key component of the all-share index. It's a big company, right? And for you to be able to drive Dangote Cement, there has to be the big boys. But the big boys will not trade the way retail investors will trade. They would always apply caution and try to take a bit of time. With time, we expect it to continue to inch a little bit higher than current levels. Will it be sustained? Yes, maybe in the interim, say year end, but would I expect it to go up today, tomorrow, the day after? I don't think so.
Wow, so of course we should factor in the fact that it's a trading cycle, so there'll always be cherry picking, profit taking, and then it just goes around like that.
Of course.
Where do you see the index ending this year?
Hard to say. If you had told me in January that we would be anywhere near 120,000, I said, hard to say. But right now, at 155K, 200K is not a long shot from here.
Wow, I agree with you. Let's go for 200,000 this year. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abiodun Adedotun, for your views. All right, so let's look at other markets. Now we go to South Africa, where South Africa is on 109,719. I believe we're on 110 this time yesterday, but we've lost a bit of that. So it's down 0.85% at intraday. Egypt is closed today, but closed positive 0.29%. Kenya also is Thursday's closing in the green, closed in the green, 178.80. 0.25%. That's for Kenya. Moving over to the Middle East, where two of the major markets trade on Fridays. Dubai is positive almost 0.5% in the green, 6,045.50. Abu Dhabi is on the flip side, but it's forgivable. It's really light there, 0.01%, really minute. The impact, but is at 10,190.09. Saudi Arabia and Qatar do not trade on Fridays, but look at the numbers. They closed in the green yesterday, Thursday. Going to the United States, we see stock features there are slightly green for Dow Jones, 0.02%, S&P 0.2%, and NASDAQ 0.41%, seeing some recovery. Now, after hours trading, Intel shares popped 7% after the chipmaker reported third quarter sales that exceeded analyst estimates, and Target shares also rose. Target, I hear, they are planning to lay off some of their workers, but that has not sipped into the market sentiment yet, because we see it's right here that the shares rose marginally, though, after that announcement of corporate workforce drop or cut by 8%. And that's the first major layoff in a decade. Talking about Target there, and stocks and pace to notch weekly gains after Thursday's moves erased Wednesday's losses. But let's get a more robust picture of what Thursday's trade looks like with our correspondent Maria Bird.
The U.S. stock market climbed on Thursday as the Dow Jones was up at 0.3%, the S&P 500 also up at 0.6%, and the heavy-tech Nasdaq led the way at 0.9%. Many investors are hopeful that there could be some trade negotiations between the U.S. and China before the end of the year, as the much-anticipated meeting between the U.S. president and China is scheduled for next Thursday. This could mean major changes in the U.S. global economy. And also, this could mean some improvements in what we have seen as increase in tariffs and exports between the U.S. and China.
Yeah, that's a major driver for the Asian market, too. That's a meeting between the U.S. president and China's president set for Thursday next week. So we've seen that the market, investors are excited about that. Obviously, it does look like there's more of optimism. So Nikkei, we see is 1.35. Kospi is 2.5% in the green. Hang Seng is 0.74 in the green. Let's see the other markets in Asia. Shanghai is also positive. But, I noticed yesterday that it does seem like India is standing on its own in this past trading session. So India is in the red, while the other Asian markets are looking positive, all in anticipation of that meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping. Also, we saw that headline inflation in Japan climbed 2.9% from 2.7%. The new prime minister has some packages, or a stimulus package that's supposed to deal with the issue of inflation, and we'll see how that goes and the details of it in the coming days. But staying with the market now, let's see what's happening in European markets. Lars Holzer joins us. Hi, Lars. What's the market looking like in Europe?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ini, and happy Friday. There's really not much going again in Frankfurt, and I already was thinking people there are going to be happy when this Friday is actually over and it's time for the weekend, because it's been a sad and almost boring week in Frankfurt. Looking at the DAX, it's just not moving. Right now, entirely flat, maybe 0.1% down, and that is even though we've started into earnings season. There are numbers out. We've seen some decent numbers, but so far they're only moving those companies' particular shares, and none of these numbers have given the whole market an impulse, not to the upside, not to the downside. Now next week we are really heading into the full season with the majority of DAX companies opening their books. Until then, so for today, there's still a bit of talk over trade as well as some delayed US numbers, but not much here in Germany or in the EU that could get markets going.
Yeah, but I'm sure next week a lot of things will happen, because there's also next week Volkswagen planning to shut down some of its production next week, and that can be good news at all.
Certainly not. That is a problem. Volkswagen said they will shut down production of their popular Golf model because they're running out of chips, semiconductors. Here we're talking about chips made by Dutch-Chinese company Nexperia, and there's quite a backstory here. Now, Nexperia is a subsidiary of China's Wingtech, headquartered in Shanghai, but with some of their chips developed and manufactured in the Dutch city of Nijmegen. And now last week, the Dutch government took over control of the Dutch plants, saying it was meant to prevent Nexperia from leaking intellectual property in semiconductors to China. But China retaliated with Nexperia immediately halting exports of all its Chinese-made chips and chip equipment. And, as it turns out, most of the company's chips are actually not made in Nijmegen, and including those that Volkswagen needed. What's worse for the automaker, it's very hard to find an alternative. Now, here, just over the last hour, we actually got some good news, and Volkswagen says it's likely that they actually do find another supplier, and maybe they can prevent a shutdown of production here. But still, we're seeing how this is a really tricky situation. Many car makers highly dependent on supplies from China.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the major advice in the world is you count your costs before you get into the war. I wonder if the cost wasn't considered. Because shutting down production is going to affect the whole economy.
Yeah, the question really is here, what's behind it? It's hard to understand how the Dutch government would have acted like that. As I mentioned, they said that they need to make sure that intellectual property, that patents and technology aren't transferred to China, and it was just to secure their interest. However, it's hard to stop that, of course, at a company that has been working across borders for decades. Also, one influential auto industry insider here in Germany even said that the particular chips that we're talking about here, these Nexperia chips, are quite basic. It's not top-notch equipment at all. Now, what we're really seeing here, it seems there is more to the story. It looks like the United States have pressured the Dutch government to a bit more harsh towards China, which would really mean that the US under Donald Trump is forcing allies, including the Netherlands, to join the country's trade war, to play along with tariffs, or even, as we're seeing now, outright boycotts or problems like that. The big problem, of course, industry insiders find that neither the US nor China would even be the biggest losers in such a game, but that Europe would suffer even more. And that is exactly what we're seeing in this particular case.
Yeah, well, alignment and realignment amidst all of this trade tariffs and trade tension, costing the world, global economy a whole lot, Lars. But, we'll continue staying on the story. Thank you so much for that update.
Thank you, Ini. Have a nice weekend.
You too. Okay, so let's go and see what crypto is doing this afternoon. I think Bitcoin really likes this 111. We've seen Bitcoin stay on 111 for a bit, but it's a recovery from what we had yesterday. Yesterday it was about 109,000. So we're back to the 111,000 after surging 2.18% in 24 hours. Ethereum is struggling to get back to the 4,000 level. It's recovered. There's a huge recovery, 3.11% again. XRP, Solana, and a whole lot of the altcoins, they are in the green this afternoon, Doge and Cardano. Now, there's stories making the rounds in the crypto space at this time. I'm sure you have heard this, that President Donald Trump has pardoned Binance founder. Of course, we know that Binance is the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange. And there are talks of controversy over possible conflict of interest. Mr. Zhao, as a founder, had served almost 4 months in prison after pleading guilty to failing to establish adequate anti-money laundering measures at Binance, which prosecutors said allowed criminals and sanctioned groups to move illicit funds through digital assets. The pardon has drawn criticism from opponents who point to Trump's deep business connections to the crypto industry, including his family's company, that's World Liberty Financial, which introduced the USD1 stable coin. So is there some kind of sentiment going on there? That's what they're asking President Trump. Another story is Binance surged more than 2.5% in the past 24 hours. After that, following that, so that's probably explains the green color that we have seen, that we saw there earlier when it comes to prices. Also, JP Morgan, which is the U.S. financial giant, has reported is set to let institutional clients use Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral. So some news feeding or painting the color even greener than it looked. This is a big one for JP Morgan to accept Bitcoin and Ethereum as collateral, obviously showing more trust in those crypto assets. The move represents a major step by a traditional bank towards integrating digital assets into mainstream finance, underscoring rising confidence in cryptocurrencies as credible financial instrument. Also, China is planning a $4 billion bond issuance in Hong Kong, and the finance ministry plans to issue $4 billion in dollar-denominated sovereign bonds in Hong Kong. And this bond issuance highlights China's strategy to diversify funding and bolster Hong Kong's status as a financial hub without directly impacting the cryptocurrency market. A whole lot happening in the crypto space and with China. But China, of course, they're standing their ground amidst tariffs talks. And the meeting, of course, looking forward to that next week, Thursday, between China and the United States. And of course, the market is going to start feeding sentiments from expectations even up until that. So we leave Bitcoin at 111,000 for the weekend, but it's a market that never sleeps. So I'm sure by the time we come on Monday, we'll see a lot of changes. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for being a part of our walk from Monday to Friday. We appreciate your time, and we hope you will go to our YouTube channel and watch our programs, Business Morning and Business Incorporated, all over and over again until we come your way again on Monday when we start the journey afresh. But I'll see you tonight. Let's see if it's 155,000 or it will head to 156 before the close of trade in Nigeria's stock market. I'll tell you the details later on tonight. Bye-bye.